Hello wonderful humans, welcome to class number 1 of this IGTV series that is going to be all about self-esteem at home. I have partnered with Dove on this series because as the largest global provider of self-esteem education, they have decided to take their classes from the classroom into people's homes while we are all staying at home more. They have already educated over 60 million people worldwide on self-esteem, and I don't know many other brands who do that much work behind the scenes. So I am very, very proud to be partnering with them on this and bringing some resources to parents, guardians, caregivers, young people, anyone who maybe just needs a bit of a boost. The topic of today's class is well-being at home. So we are going to be covering all things well-being mentally, physically, socially, creatively, and within our communities in terms of the well-being of everyone around us as well. So I put 2 polls up on my Instagram stories because I wanted to know where you were at in terms of well-being. The first thing I asked was, since being at home, have you found new ways to take care of your well-being? 62% of you said yes, and I also asked whether you have felt you've been able to prioritize self-care during this time, and 57% of you said yes, but it's understandable because we all have different priorities. Lots of us have other people to take care of. Self-care is hard to fit in. I talk a lot, I post a lot, I put up a lot of things about taking care of yourself and being gentle with yourself, giving yourself a break, and this time at home has really been an opportunity for me to start practicing what I preach a bit more. We give out care so freely to other people and the people that we love, and we don't give it to ourselves because there's always something telling us that it's not for us, that we don't deserve it. But the problem is you never get to the point where it's enough. There's always another goal, another obstacle, another way that you don't think you're doing good enough. You know, even though I am leading this class on well-being, I'm just getting up every day and doing my best. You know, some days at home I feel able to get up and do things that I know are positive for my well-being. Other days it just does not work out like that. If you're having more of those days, that doesn't mean you are failing, but if you are having the days where you feel able to try and practice some new kinds of taking care of yourself, that's what these upcoming tips are gonna be for. Lots of these have been informed by the Dove Self-Esteem Project, which is backed by academic research from body image and self-esteem experts, and some of them are coming from little old me. My tip number 1 for well-being at home would be take it a day at a time and feel whatever you're feeling. We cannot force ourselves to get up every day and always do the most and be the most impressive. This is something none of us have been through before, so there's no wrong way really to get through this. Tip number 2 is find ways to connect. We are suddenly spending a lot of time with the people that we live with, if you live with people, or if you don't live with people, we're trying to find new ways to connect with all the people that we love. So get creative with it, have some fun with it. Some people are doing themed dinner nights with their families. I know people who are having game nights and quiz nights on video calls, and you know, I know some people who are having entire proms in their bathroom where they dress up really fancy and dance around to 90s pop music. Whatever feels like a fun way to be connected to people, go for it. And on the other hand, it's important to point out that sometimes you have to make space to be connected with just yourself. A lot of people are having, you know, video call burnout or feeling tons of extra pressure to check in with everyone every single day, and you only have a limited amount of energy every day, and you have to save a little bit of it for yourself. Tip number 3 for well-being at home is to learn something new or discover a passion that you've maybe forgotten about. Don't freak out, because I am not suggesting you do anything wild like learn how to translate ancient Greek scripture or paint a masterpiece on your ceiling. It doesn't have to be a big, huge thing. You could challenge yourself to read 1 book a week, or you could raise a plant, or you could try origami. I personally have been singing. I have been sewing a little bit. Sewed this floral here, this floral jumpsuits. This was a pair of trousers that didn't fit, and this was a plain pink jumpsuit, and I just combined them. I am also painting old picture frames that I'm finding around my house. I'm painting them pastel colours and filling them with art from people who I love, artists on Instagram, because it's also a really good time to support independent artists and small businesses. Tip number 4 is about finding ways to help others. So obviously right now our news feeds are filled with extraordinary people doing amazing things, but you don't have to save the entire world. You could just try and do one kind thing for another person every day. Or you could just call up someone you care about and say, hey, if you want to talk about anything today, I am here to listen. You know, sometimes the best thing we can offer if we don't have anything else to give is just a bit of our time and an ear. So that is also a kind thing to do. You can obviously look out for official ways to volunteer. Here in the UK, the NHS has been putting up opportunities to get involved, and blood banks have been putting out calls because they're still open and they still need donations. So there are plenty of ways, and don't forget that as long as you are following the government guidelines and staying home, you are helping others. Automatically, you are helping to protect the most vulnerable people in your communities and helping to flatten the curve. So even if that's all you've got, you're helping other people. And number 5, the final tip for well-being at home, is find ways to move your body that feel good. And you know, we all know about the physical health benefits of exercise, but there are so many mental health benefits, especially when it doesn't come from a place of shame and guilt. So whatever kind of movement feels joyful for you, if you can find a little bit of time for that, that is a brilliant way to take care of your well-being. Even if it's as simple as going for a walk and just taking in what's around you, being mindful, feeling your breath, not obsessing over everything else that you have to do that day. That's 2 in 1, because that's joyful movement and that's being mindful. Okay, we are onto the last part of the class, and that is the part where I answer some of your questions on the topic of well-being at home. So let's get right to it. How do I put boundaries in place with my family without hurting their feelings? Okay, we're spending a lot of time right now around the same people if we are living with people in this situation. And you need your own boundaries. That's not something that you should have to feel guilty about. You know, no one can spend 24/7 around the same people without running into some issues. I know lots of people who are practicing labeling certain rooms as kind of off limits, and when someone is in that room, essentially that is code for do not disturb. I need some time to myself. And they might even turn around and say, thank you for saying that, I was feeling exactly the same way. We all need time where we refill ourselves so that we actually have energy to give to other people. You do not need to feel guilty about that. It doesn't make you rude, doesn't make you a bad person, just makes you a human being. How do I stop feeling guilty for taking care of myself when I could be being productive instead? So we have a real thing in our culture around using every single day and every moment to produce something. Sometimes when I'm in that cycle of beating myself up for not being productive, I think about someone who I love who is not very productive, and whether I think any less of them for that, whether I base their worth on what they are putting out every day. And why does productive have to mean the traditional things that we see it as societally? Why can it not be productive to take care of yourself? Because that's investing back into yourself so that then you can go out into the world and give your energy to other things. When I'm not doing so good mentally, I'm more critical of my body. What are some ways that I can practice being kind to my body instead? One of the first ways I tried to be a bit kinder to my body was to change the way that I was touching it. I used to be so rough with myself, pulling and grabbing at parts, and I challenged myself to just sit with hands on my stomach, which was the part I struggled the most with, and just gently touch my body with kindness and care and love instead. And I went one further and challenged myself to say things out loud that I was grateful for my body doing. It's so important that we remember your body is really trying its best to carry you through this time and your entire life. It doesn't understand why it would need to look like a celebrity or an Instagram model. It's just doing its best to let you live your life. So practice a little bit of gratitude towards it and give yourself a break. All right, that is the end of the class. I wish I had a school bell. I do not. Maybe we can edit one in. Can we edit in a school bell? Thank you for coming to this week's class. I'm going to be back really soon. The next class is going to be about using social media wisely. As always, the Dove Self-Esteem Project resources are in the link in my bio. There's tons more there to download if you want to see more. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you soon.